So sometimes we want to be able to factor out a negative. You can think of it as like a -1, but a lot of times it's going to be more than just a 1. Now, they could tell us, hey, we want you to factor out a negative here, or we might decide to. A lot of times, if I have a polynomial, I like my first term to be positive, so a lot of times if the first term is negative, I'll factor out a negative. So here I'm going to factor out a negative, okay? And I have to think about what the GCF is going to be. So my GCF is going to be negative, and now I'm going to look at, okay, what goes into 4, what goes into 16, what goes into 8? What's the biggest number? 4. You might have thought 2, but 4 is bigger, and 4 will go into all 3 of those numbers. And then I look at the variables. I've got b cubed, b squared, b. So I only get to take out one b because they don't all have more than one b. Okay, but they all have a b. All right, so that's the GCF, -4b. Now, again, you might say, well, why does it have to be negative? It doesn't. You can factor out a 4b, but I'm choosing to factor out a -4b. And sometimes you're going to want to choose that as well. All right, so we'll show you how it's done. So if this first term here, I'm taking out the negative, I'm taking out the 4, and I'm taking out a b, I have left b squared. Notice that that's now positive. Okay, now here's the tricky part. If I take out a negative, and I had a 16, then I need to make that a -4b. So I want you to think about that. But a negative times a negative is how I'm going to get that positive. So when I think of -4b times -4b, that's going to be a positive 16, -4 times -4, and then I'll get the b squared. Okay? All right, and then finally this last term, I'm taking out the negative, so it's going to make this plus, and then I'm going to have 2, and the b came out. So I'm done. Okay? Now, that's the answer. We checked the middle term. I kind of wrote that out, but let's go over here and show you the whole check. And then I'm going to point something out. Okay, if I were to distribute, that would get me a -4b cubed. And then that part, we already went over this, but a -4b times a -4 would be positive 16b squared. And then the -4b times the 2 would get me -8b. Now that's what I should have had to begin with. That's at the start. So I'm comparing it to that. It checks, so we did it right. Yay, that's good news. Now I want to point something out. Notice that in the original problem it went negative, positive, negative, or minus, plus, minus. And now it goes plus, in the parentheses, it's plus, minus, plus. See, all the signs changed because you factored out the negative. So that's what I wanted to point out. Okay, so it doesn't always come up, but sometimes it comes up.